A cold wind rattled the windows of Emily's apartment as she sat at her desk, staring at the blinking cursor on her laptop screen. The deadline for her horror novel was looming, but the words wouldn't come. She had started writing with excitement, creating a dark, twisted tale about a woman who moves into a house haunted by her own nightmares. But now, with only a few chapters left, she felt stuck. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Maybe a break would help. She reached for the cup of coffee beside her, taking a slow sip as she scrolled through the document. The main character, Julia, was supposed to experience a terrifying encounter in her home, a shadowy figure appearing in the reflection of her bathroom mirror. Emily had written the scene in detail, describing how Julia would catch a glimpse of something standing behind her, only for it to disappear when she turned around. It was a classic horror setup, but something about it made Emily uneasy. She glanced toward her own bathroom door, slightly ajar, and exhaled. She was just tired. Too much writing, too many nights alone in this apartment with nothing but her imagination to keep her company. Shaking off the feeling, she started typing again. As the night stretched on, she fell into a rhythm. Her fingers moved quickly over the keys, bringing Julia's terror to life. In the next chapter, Julia would start receiving strange messages on her phone, texts from an unknown number describing events in real time. Turn around, one message would say, just as she stood in front of her mirror. Emily smiled to herself. That would be a good twist. She typed it out, but as soon as she finished the sentence, her phone vibrated. She jumped. The sound was too sudden, too perfectly timed. Heart pounding, she grabbed the phone off the desk and looked at the screen. A single message stared back at her. Turn round. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Her mind raced. Had she told anyone about her story? No, she hadn't shared this draft with anyone. Her hands trembled as she looked round the empty room. There was no one behind her. The apartment was silent except for the hum of her laptop. She forced herself to laugh. This had to be a coincidence. Maybe a prank, a wrong number? She set the phone down and tried to ignore it. But the moment she turned back to her screen, another message appeared. You shouldn't have written that. A chill ran down her spine. This wasn't funny anymore. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Should she reply? Ask who it was? Or should she just block the number? Her stomach twisted with unease as she slowly reached for her phone again. But before she could touch it, the power flickered. The lamp on her desk dimmed, and for a split second, the apartment plunged into darkness. When the light came back, the screen of her laptop had changed. Her story document was open, but there were new words on the page, ones she hadn't written. Stop writing, or she will find you. Emily's blood turned to ice. Someone was messing with her. They had to be. But how? Her laptop wasn't connected to any cloud service, and she was home alone. No one else had access to her files. The air in the room felt heavier now, thick with something she couldn't explain. The feeling of being watched crept up her spine, and without thinking, she turned toward the bathroom door. It was still slightly open, and the mirror inside was facing her. Her breath hitched. For a second, she thought she saw something move, a flicker of motion, a dark shape just at the edge of her vision. But when she focused, there was nothing there. The mirror reflected only her wide-eyed face. Pale with fear, she swallowed hard and forced herself to stand up. This was ridiculous. She was scaring herself over nothing. She walked over to the bathroom and pushed the door open completely, letting the light flood in. The mirror showed nothing but an empty room behind her. She let out a shaky breath and stepped back. Maybe she needed sleep. This whole thing was probably her tired brain playing tricks on her. Tomorrow, she would wake up, laugh at how paranoid she had been, and finish her book. But as she turned off the bathroom light, her phone vibrated again. You shouldn't have looked. Emily felt the blood drain from her face. She wanted to throw the phone across the room, but her fingers refused to move. The reflection in the mirror hadn't changed. Had it? A terrifying thought crept into her mind. What if she had missed something? What if something had been there, watching, but she had looked away too soon? Her stomach twisted with nausea. The laptop screen blinked again. More words appeared, typing themselves out in real time. She's here now. Emily's breathing turned shallow. She slowly turned back toward the mirror, heart hammering so hard she could hear it in her ears. This time, the reflection wasn't empty. There was something standing behind her, a shadow, tall and moving, watching. Her scream never left her throat. The next morning, her publisher sent an email asking why she had missed the deadline. No response came. Calls went unanswered. Days passed. When they finally checked her apartment, the laptop was still open. The document had one final sentence added to the story. She should have stopped writing. But Emily was nowhere to be found.